I am fortunate to have both the new Tudor Monochrome and the latest generation Rolex Submariner, the 124060. I think these two watches are as good of a comparison as you will find in the dive watch market, so let's jump to it. Here are some basic dimensions, features, specifications for each watch. Feel free to pause the video to take a closer look, but a couple things that have stood out to me. The Rolex is larger. It's thinner, it has more water resistance, it has inner applied anti-reflective coating on this flat sapphire crystal, and it is far more recognizable as a brand, as a model, and it is also far more expensive. I think the Submariner has been the gold standard for dive watches for many years. Now, the Tudor, on the other hand, is smaller, it's thicker, it has fewer reflective surfaces, which I know some watch collectors really prefer, and each watch is third-party certified by the Swiss Federal Institute of Metrology. So this is META certified as opposed to being a superlative chronometer, which is what the Submariner has. Now, this Tudor also retails for less than half the retail price of the Rolex, and it is far easier to obtain brand new at an authorized dealer, not to mention the fact that it is available new with multiple strap and bracelet options. I actually own the burgundy color configuration of this watch. But as far as similarities go, both watches have the no date configuration, and I'm a big fan of that. Both have good lume, though I found that the Submariner lasts longer into the night. Both have a thread down signed crown. Both have excellent quick adjustment style clasps. And both watches have accurate mechanical movements, each containing a free-sprung balance, an anti-magnetic hairspring, and 70 hours of power reserve. Now, many watch collectors, and I think rightly so, have begun to question whether or not they should even try to buy a Rolex Submariner anymore with this Tudor on the market. The Tudor Monochrome offers arguably as much watch. It is as well-rounded of a diver as it gets, and the availability mixed with the lower price is what makes this a luxury proposition that is so compelling. Now, I think it's fair to say that the Tudor Monochrome is what the Rolex Submariner used to be. In the early decades of the Submariner, it was regarded as a tool watch built for diving. It was expensive, but still attainable for the average working person or member of a military organization. It was not highly sought after, and it could be had new with a discount from a jeweler without issue. The bezel was aluminum, the dial was matte black. The first oyster bracelets had the step rivet style that this current monochrome emulates. Now, this Tudor, it has that aluminum bezel insert. It has the subtle texturized dial, and stylistically speaking, it looks a lot like an early Rolex or Tudor Submariner. It's a luxury priced watch, but it's still attainable by most watch collectors, and it feels more like a tool and less like a statement or a status symbol, which is what the Rolex has evolved into. Now, the Submariner, the design hasn't changed a lot, but the feel of the watch has evolved over the years. Again, this started out as a straightforward tool diver. The retail price, especially over the past 20-25 years, has skyrocketed, far more than just keeping up with the rates of inflation. The dial has a lacquered, deep black look. There's a ceramic bezel insert, so the design has turned sleek, shiny, and contemporary. Again, different feeling than the inception of the watch in the 1950s. Add in the more aggressive super case, the crown guards, the wider bracelet. There is no doubt that the wrist presence is greater than that of the Tudor. And because of the thin profile of the case, which I really like, and the overbuilt nature of the bracelet and clasp, I do find this a more comfortable watch to wear between the two. It's not all about the size or the lug-to-lug dimension. Now, I also find that the Submariner has the more pleasant bezel action. The Tudor bezel action is class leading at its price. There's no watch that comes close to matching the bezel feel of the Tudor at its price. It's top quality, but I think the same thing could be said of the Submariner. There is just no bezel that beats this in terms of sound and feel, even at a far higher retail price. Now, which watch is the better purchase? I'm going to speak as an owner of multiple of each model, of Rolex and of Tudor, so I'm speaking from my own experiences. The Rolex is the nicer watch in the following ways: movement accuracy, tactile feel of the bezel, overall comfort, more adjustability, better crystal clarity, and better legibility. So there are white gold surrounds that are larger, they're more noticeable, and that glossy black dial is so deep. It's great. So there's excellent contrast for legibility in any light condition. The ARC on the underside of the sapphire crystal makes a difference. I think that is the Tudor's most glaring weakness. There is more travel in the glide lock as opposed to the T-fit. The larger clasp, of the Rolex, it balances out the case weight well, so this watch just feels perfectly proportional while you're wearing it. And then it's thin. It has great presence. It is the easiest watch to wear outside of being concerned that you're making yourself a target for theft, because depending on where you are in the world, that could be an issue. Some love the brand cachet here, some hate it, but the fact remains that the brand is the most sought-after watch brand in the world. It's the best-selling watch brand in the world, and the value retention can be a nice thing if you own the watch. I've also found that a superlative chronometer certification has been more accurate day to day than all of the Meta-certified watches that I've owned. So the Rolex, I think, is the nicer watch in many aspects. But the Tudor, it beats the Rolex in the following ways: overall strap options, general versatility, the value per cost ratio, the under-the-radar nature of the design, and the smaller case diameter. So the current trend with watches is a return to smaller wearing sport pieces. This certainly wears smaller. I know Tudor says it's 41 millimeters, but the nominal dimension would indicate that that's not the case. This does wear smaller. So if you like that, you might like the Tudor more than the Rolex. This is not an instantly recognizable watch, and some watch collectors really gravitate toward that aspect of a luxury piece. This also has the snowflake hour hand, which is one of my all-time favorite hand designs. It is distinctive, it is legible, there's a lot of surface for lume. I like this better than the Mercedes hour hand of the Rolex. And then this also has that old school finishing, the circular brushed lug tops, the polished chamfered case edges. This is finished like a Submariner used to be finished, and one could argue this has more finesse when it comes to the finished work. And then I mentioned the general versatility. This comes from Tudor, either on Oyster or on 5-link or on a rubber strap. I think this looks good on a NATO strap. I think this is the more versatile watch. Yes, the Rolex is versatile, but it's meant to be worn on the bracelet. I know some watch collectors put it on a fitted rubber strap from, say, Everest or a similar brand, but it just doesn't look quite as versatile as the Tudor does, if that makes sense. Let me know if I'm coming across or if I'm not explaining myself adequately there. So, objectively speaking, the Rolex is the nicer watch, but it's also the far more expensive watch. And for the money, it better be better. How much better is it? It comes down to a few little differences. Some will like the fact that the Rolex is hard to come by. Others will despise the brand for the same reason. I think the Tudor is absolutely outstanding for the price. It does go toe-to-toe with the Rolex, and I think it holds its own nicely. The question you have to ask yourself, is the Rolex worth spending more than double for negligible improvements in some aspects? For some collectors, the answer is easy. It's yes. And for many others, it's no. I say, if you have a desire or an itch for the sub, the Monochrome won't necessarily be a satisfactory replacement or stand-in. I know it's visually similar, but it's a much different feeling watch. It feels more like a vintage piece made in the modern era. I think the two watches differ enough in feel that if you were to have the desire, you could enjoy both models in the same watch rotation. Imagine mixing it up with a burgundy like I have and pairing it with a bluesy or a Cermet. I don't know that I would buy a monochrome and a 124060 Rolex, because I think after a while I would always gravitate toward one of them because they are so visually similar, even though they feel like different watches, if that makes sense. Hopefully you've enjoyed this look at two amazing divers, and hopefully I've been able to answer some questions or shed some light on how the two stack up. If you appreciated this video, please like it and subscribe to my channel. Those two small things have a huge impact on how visible my channel is and how I am recommended to new viewers. So your support means a lot.